Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Matt coming to you once again from Rome. The Synod here is just getting more silly all the time. I was actually going to do a full news report again on what happened in the press hall today, but I don't think I need to. What I want to read to you now is actually a quote, and it proves that what's happening in the Synod hall right now, in the press hall, I should say, it defies parody. It's so absurd that you can't expand on it. Here's what some lady from CLAR, some nonprofit thing. Now, she actually came out in front of the press today, and it makes me, sometimes you feel like you're being punked. It's like they're not serious. It's like somebody said to the representatives for the press conferences, all you got to do is go out there and just say a bunch of nonsense. You don't actually have to say anything because we got to get the work done in here. So just go out there and tell the journalists whatever. They're not going to know. I'm serious. This is what she said, and this is a quote. She says, quote, "The challenge to live out our vocation with joy today. But we must not be exhausted in our communities. We want to walk with the new way of being church, a more synodal way of being church, where the priority is for listening. We must help poor and marginalized people. The church has a new face, and we men and women feel that we must participate in this new face of poverty and of the evangelical values. We feel the need to promote encounter and charity. We must build bridges. We expand our relationships without barriers on what we can build with the others. And as Christians, we have this daring of fraternity to bear witness to brotherhood, and then the option of integral ecology, so all cultures can be recognized in diversity, so together we can build this great chain of taking care of the earth. Adopt a new approach and be on friendly terms with friends of the environment. And mostly, we listen." Friends, it doesn't make any sense here. It didn't make any sense over there. So I'm thinking to myself, what is this? Is this a game? I mean, how can you string that many buzzwords and cliches together and expect to be taken seriously? So I'm going to take the night off. I am going to go have a little something to eat, a nice glass of wine, and I'm going to go to sleep because I can't make head or tail of this particular press conference. There'll be others, and I'm sure they're going to be as exciting as the last couple were, where big things happen. Not much happened in today's. But by the way, we're going to stay here until a few days longer. I don't know how we're going to pay for that, so we may end up shooting from under a bridge at some point. Anyone that wants to help us out here can go to our website and hit the donate tab and help us get home. But anyway, because on Monday night there's going to be a very exciting thing, a really seriously good bit of news where traditional Catholics, the best and the brightest, are going to be together for an event. I'm not going to tell you what it was. I want to tease you because we are going to go cover that right here in Rome. Really, really good piece of news. Again, as I've been saying all week, this is the worst of times and it's the best of times. It's the worst of times for the church, but the Catholic counter-revolution here in Rome and all around the world, it's the best of times for that. So thank God for that. Say your prayers. Please keep praying. Thank you for your concern and solicitude. I'm not as tired as I look. We've just been kind of doing the newsy thing and then staying up half the night editing videos, so it's kind of a long process. But believe me, it's been worth it. I really appreciate all your comments and all. If this is providing a little service for you, then thank God, and it's worth it. This again is, as far as I'm concerned, the biggest news story in the history of the church, in the history of the world since the crucifixion of Christ. What they're doing to the Catholic Church right now, so it's all very much worth it. It wouldn't be worth it, however, if I didn't convey the message, our most important message, and the reason we're here. Please continue to pray. Don't give up. These guys are not that swift. They're not that great. There's things that are happening here. It looks a little shaky. We got to keep hoping and praying. And we had a little conversation today, and I'll leave that with you today. It's a little 10-minute conversation that I had with one of our producers, a crew. We were down there before the press conference started, and just talking about what it's like, what the feeling is, what the vibe is here at the Synod and in Rome in general. So maybe that'll be useful to you, and you can just let me off tonight from the usual hard news report with that, and tomorrow we'll be back with more coverage. Thank you ever so much. Keep praying. God bless you. I'm Michael Matt from Rome, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Is there anything good happening here at the Synod, do you think?
No, absolutely. I think that's, especially when you're talking about taking all of this in from back in the States, it all seems sort of monolithic and it's all very black and white, and you think you know exactly what everyone should be saying and doing. But once you get here, you realize there's a lot going on here, and there are a lot of good people, and there's this whole, people are suggesting that it doesn't matter what the journalists are saying, but it does matter. In other words, the whole idea of this Synod is to bring journalists here. So I saw some comments yesterday from people saying it doesn't matter that people are waking up. Oh yes, it does matter that the press is waking up, that the press is onto these guys. This whole thing is a media stunt. So that's very important that people realize that. And also people realize that, again, if you talk to Romans, there's a whole different system here. The Vatican is set up in a different way. And I don't understand. I've been coming here for years, but I don't claim to be able to understand it as an American because it's so different for us. But it was described to me years ago by an Italian guy here in the press office who described it as the Vatican be it's like a bunch of little kingdoms. And everybody's in charge of their little kingdom, and they're all trying to just make sure they preserve that and do their job there, and they're not that interested in everybody else's kingdom. They're not that interested in the guy in white. That was the thing that really surprised me. For them, for the Italians, for people working here at the Vatican, the guy in white, the man in white comes and goes, and it's always going to be somebody else. So when some people say, well, gee, why don't they say more against Francis? Part of it is because of that. You don't want to jeopardize your influence in the Vatican. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree with this. This is just how it works. You don't want to jeopardize your influence long term on what's happening to the church. So if you blow it all and you throw everything at Francis, you end up being sort of a one-hit wonder. So a lot of these little things that you can't get from the other side of the pond, you grasp it from here. But I would say overall, the good things that are happening, again, is the awakening that we're seeing in the press with journalists from all over the world who are saying, you know what, this isn't working, because they go back, they report on this for the next year, they influence thousands of people in their own constituency. And that's the sort of thing that we need to have happen. That can change the ability that Francis has to carry out this insane and, as far as I'm concerned, demonic revolution of his.
Do you think everyone here is malicious then? Everyone running this Synod?
Not at all. Not at all. Not everyone here is malicious. You got to remember that all of this has been such a long time in coming. And what you really see here in the Vatican, to a large extent, is a certain failure to understand what their role is, what their job is. So when you're back in the States, and when you're growing up in the States as a Catholic, you think, well, everybody in the Vatican is doing one thing. They're trying to save souls. They're all about the spiritual stuff. But you got to remember, this is a multinational corporation in a way. I mean, think about how big the Catholic Church is, how many schools, how many parishes, what a job it is to run this thing. And now we're in a period of time where spirituality and all of that, the religious aspect of this, spiritual aspect, just isn't as important anymore. Look what the Second Vatican Council did. So you realize then that when you come here, that a lot of people think they're doing the right thing. They think, well, we really do need to do something about global warming and some of these concerns. It's all liberal stuff. But no, to a large degree, they're brainwashed. So it's wrong to say that everybody here has got this satanic, apocalyptic agenda where they just want to destroy the church. Then that's why they don't understand what we're trying to do. Like, what's wrong with you? Why wouldn't you want women priests? Why wouldn't you want to take care of the jungles and worry about global warming and all this stuff? The concern is they're using environmentalism sort of as the introduction to sort of a new pantheistic worldly religion that has all to do with the brotherhood of man and our common home, and very little to do with the reason that the Catholic Church was founded by Jesus Christ. So no, they're not all malicious. I think some people at the top, I gotta say, I think that Francis is malicious. I think he is maliciously, he's got like a vendetta against the whole old structures of Christendom, the old Christendom Eurocentric structures. Something happened to him in Argentina. He's very resentful of all that. So he's here to tear it down. So there's malice there. But it would be wrong to say that everyone at the Synod or every cardinal is malicious. Every cardinal who's not speaking out, for example, is malicious. They are talking about the future, and they don't want to burn the bridge. They want to have influence beyond Francis. And Francis has the ability, he runs this town like a mob boss. He has the ability to get rid of people. Look at Vigano, he got rid of them, So, yes, it's multi-dimensional, and nothing's black and white, and there's good and there's bad, and there's just a whole lot going on here. This is like the epicenter of history right now, what happens here.
So what to you seems to be the most outrageous thing you've heard so far?
The most outrageous part of I think it's just what they're not talking about and haven't been talking about for a long time. What I think is the most outrageous thing is the failure. And we saw this back in February with the Sex Abuse Summit. The failure to really recognize the fundamental reason for the problem. So what's outrageous about this is, the Catholic Church has been down in the Amazon for 400 years, very successfully. So what's happening in the Amazon is the native spirituality is taking over down there in the Amazonian region. Why? Because the Catholic Church is as weak there as anywhere else. Liberation theology has been like on fire down there for a long time. So the thing is that the policies of modernists in the church before the Second Vatican Council, but especially from the Second Vatican Council moving forward, has destroyed the church and has made places like in the Amazon, it's made that completely dysfunctional. So rather than looking at what's actually going on and the extent to which the policies of Vatican II are responsible, they're just making everything up now and saying, well, we got to go down there and take care of the ecology and the rainforest and got to listen to people and all this nonsense. Nobody's paying any attention to how we got here in the first place. It's like immigration. Why do all these people want to leave their countries? Why is no one looking at the problems in their countries that makes them want to leave? Same kind of thing going here. No one's looking at the problem. Fundamentally, what do they do to the church? Why are we in this mess? Why is there such a huge vocations crisis? They don't talk about what's happened to the family in general. That they don't talk about abortion, that they don't talk about gay marriage, they don't talk about all these social issues, moral issues that are devastating the world right now, devastating the family, devastating culture and society, whole entire cultures and societies. They don't say a word about that, like they don't even care. And I think that gives some indication of just how politically correct this is. This is massive political correctness. Everybody wants to save the rainforest. It doesn't take any courage. But what about the babies? Where's the Pope's outreach? Where's the Pope's synod on stopping abortion or seriously defending marriage, actually coming out and going after gay marriage? Instead, what does he do? He runs cameras and he hugs married gay couples. It really shows you, what this guy's agenda is all about. And that, I think, is the most outrageous thing about the synod. We have heard this week that the environmental problem, the global warming, is the biggest threat to humanity in the world today. No, it's not. Because even if it's all true, even if it's not junk science, really the temperatures are going up, the polar bears are going to die. Even if the world suddenly were to burn up, it still is not as serious as a problem as us as a society wiping out babies, losing conscience completely, just going to hell and sending millions and millions of people, objectively speaking, to hell. That is a bigger problem. So even if you give them their global warming, it still isn't the biggest problem as is the problem of millions and millions and millions of people not being spiritually sustained, losing their souls. Outrageous? Yes. The oversight here, what they're not talking about is outrageous.
Well, so do you think this is the end of the church? I mean, are you at all shaken by it?
I'm shaken by it, humanly speaking, yeah, because it's really difficult to see how this is going to be resolved. We're seeing things, as we reported yesterday, we're seeing an awakening that's kind of fun. They're not getting away with this on a clean, just easy, and everybody's buying it. Most people here are not buying this nonsense, so that's good. Humanly speaking, that's a consolation. But no, it's not the end of the world. And like I say, if it is the end of the world, it doesn't change our job description. If the world's going to end in a couple of months, I still would be here to do whatever I can to exercise some influence on this auto-destruction, this continued sort of orchestrated auto-destruction of the Catholic Church. You still have to fight for that. That doesn't change anything. Losing faith or confidence in the Church herself? Absolutely not. Just the opposite. When you come here and you see how hard they're working to still try to fool the world, it's really encouraging. They don't think it's over. They have long memories. They know the Catholic Church has gone through really terrible times in the past. Most of the world was Arian, but somehow, even way back then, 4th centuries, the church came roaring back. Right here, the bones of St. Peter. Who would have ever thought at that moment, if you're a Christian, an early Christian, and St. Peter gets, crucified upside down about, a football field's distance from here where we are right now, some little child watching that, who would have thought, oh, but we're gonna go topple the Caesars. We're gonna end up taking over Rome. We're gonna baptize the pagan Roman Empire. No one would have thought like that, but it happened, and they know it happened. That's how the church was built. Whoever would have thought when Christ was crucified that he would end up, what he did, the church that he started, would dominate the entire world. He was hanging on a cross dying. We thought, well, it's over. Just like we're looking at this and saying, well, it's over. But the whole lesson of Christian history, Catholic history, is that it's never over. No matter what happens, it's not over. The Catholic Church will always come back. And these men, these modernists in here, they know it's going to come back. So they're working feverishly to stop the hell out of it, literally, so it can never come back, but it's going to come back. And we know it. There's a certain almost smugness for those who know anything about Catholic history. Just looking at these guys, knock yourselves out. It's not going to work. And again, I used the analogy yesterday of the Tower of Babel. There is a sense of Tower of Babel here in the press office especially. They're saying all this stuff. Nobody's buying it. It's not smooth, glib-tongued serpents over here in the Vatican. It's old, has-been hippies, who are running this thing. If we don't have the confidence that these guys can be defeated, well, that's on us. We're the lame ones because they're not that good at what they do.